My Missing Piece, a collection of stories from amputees for anyone navigating loss, reclaiming strength, and redefining possibility. The Amputee Center and Ohio University's College of Health Sciences and Professions are proud to collaborate in launching an innovative podcast series that highlights resilience, empowerment, and community. This partnership unites expertise in education and rehabilitation to amplify the voices of amputees, share inspiring stories, and foster meaningful conversations on accessibility and well-being. By leveraging the Amputee Center's deep-rooted commitment to advocacy and CHSP's studio resources, this initiative will serve as a platform for education, inclusion, and support for individuals navigating life after losing a limb. We are excited to bring this vision to life and create lasting impact together. Okay, so we are here today with Dorie Moore.
Hello.
And she is an amputee, and we're going to dive into some of her story. So, hi, how are you?
I'm lovely on this fine rainy day. How are you today?
I'm good. It's awfully bright in here.
Yes, this is not my best lighting.
I don't.
Yeah.
Oh, I think he did it for the video part of it.
So.
But yeah, it's okay. Mm-hmm. So the purpose of this library of stories is that, you know, as we have these stories in podcast and in written form, people can access them and hopefully find connection and feel like they can go on their journey into amputation and have a relatable story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so of course, as people say, okay, well, you're an amputee, and they put you into a category, we're all human, and every amputation is different.
Absolutely.
Everybody has a different life situation. Everybody has a different family situation. And so, you know, my goal is to talk about, you know, how we navigate and where you are now, where you were, and where you want to go in the future. So I do know you personally, but there's a lot I don't know. So what was life like before amputation?
Before amputation, I didn't think twice about doing anything. If I wanted to go away for the weekend, I packed up the car and off I went. Or I would, I would check in with people. I wouldn't go running off all willy. But there wasn't a lot of thought into it. If it sounded good, I would just do it. But whereas now you have to put some consideration for certain things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, is there a shower chair? Will there be? Is there handrails? Can I get to where I'm going? Little things now that I didn't pay attention before. I would go out and, I still have a good time. I still go out with my friends. I still go out to dinner. I still probably drink more than I should. But some things have been, I don't even really...
It's okay. You have to think about it a little bit more.
You do have to think about it. It's been almost 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was just easier.
Mm-hmm. So let's say like high school to college time in your 20s, you know, what was life like?
Oh, thank God there was no social media back in that day. I had a lot of fun, a little mischievous, nothing that would have gotten me jail time, but no.
But you went dancing.
I did. I went
played
dancing.
sports.
I was a band geek.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but marching.
Yes,
marching
I did marching band.
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I was a band geek. Yeah, this
Mm-hmm.
one time at band camp. I played tenor sax. No.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, spent time with the friends, and I still do. I don't march in the band anymore, but
right. Yeah, but you had a basic regular American life.
Yes. It was nothing. It was just, I was small town and just a small town girl.
So how did you, what started to the understanding? Obviously yours was health issue related. We've had Andy here that was accident when he was in his 20s. Tiffany was a health related issue. And at the amputee center, we have so many different stories, but
Right.
like when and what happened as you started to notice that something wasn't going right with your body?
Well, I thought I had poor circulation. No. Turns out I had a cut on my foot that I had developed infection and it was gangrene. It wasn't poor circulation. I thought,
Mm.
oh, I just need to move around a little bit more. No. But I was working like 19 hours a day and I had time to work and then sleep. And I wasn't paying attention to my health. I wasn't paying attention to, I had never been to a doctor regular unless I was sick and I would go to urgent care. But then I hit 40 and everything kind of changed a little bit. Yeah.
So, that's something to talk about, though, in southeastern Ohio, and what's the norm of going and getting a primary care physician and have a good relationship with your doctor, and there's lots of reasons to do it, but
Yeah.
that's also one of those is like you don't pay attention or you don't not having regular checkups, something
No, and I
turns
would live in
into
a city for 3 or 4 years, and then I'm like, well, it's time to move. And then I would come back home for a little bit, and then I'd take off to another city for another 3 to 4 years. Then I come back. So I didn't really have the time to build that relationship
Mhm,
with a doctor that I could stick with permanently.
mhm. So you weren't taking care of yourself.
I absolutely not.
Mhm,
No, I was all about having a good time and
mhm.
not taking care of myself for the long haul.
And relationships where you were focused on someone else and not your own health.
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I already knew that about you. So,
Yes.
so and I can say like because that is also a typical story of whether we're taking care of somebody else's mental health or health needs. As women, we don't.
We're taught to be nurturers.
Mhm,
We are, and to put ourselves on the back burner.
mhm.
And you need to learn. And that took a big mindset change to focus on myself and not feel guilty about it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for getting there.
Absolutely. I am all about it and I'm an advocate for it. And I'm not saying, be so selfish, but just realize that you yourself take precedence. You
Mhm,
have to realize and be in attune with yourself. Realize something's not quite right. Something doesn't feel right. And don't feel bad about going to someone and saying, check this out for me, please.
mhm. Yeah, and that is a huge part of the stories that we hear at the center is that females especially don't take care of themselves. And I think a lot of times men too don't want to face that they might not be Superman and they're
No one wants
working,
to admit that they
yeah,
have any
working and
weaknesses coming.
providing
Yes.
and you don't want to face the reality, but then if you don't take care of it, then it turns into something much bigger. So
And it becomes so much more life altering. It can.
mhm. So when you figured out, so you just took yourself to urgent care
I
at that
took
point?
myself to the ER.
Mm-hmm.
At that point in time, I was so sick and found out that um my A1C, whenever they tested it, was over 13
Mm.
and I was septic. Then, in fact, I was so out of it that they had come to my family and my boyfriend and said, we don't know if she's going to make it out of surgery.
Wow.
Yeah, it was to that point that I let myself go. And, they're kind of trying to tell me, and I'm like, what's meant to be will be. I was so looped up on everything and just so riddled with infection. And they're like, that is not the attitude to have going into here. I'm like, well, I'm not the surgeon. It's not my hands. You can pray for his hands, but I'm just saying what's going to happen is going to happen. And someone decided that they weren't quite done with me yet. So.
Mm. So, so at that point, did they amputate right then your toe?
They half my foot.
Mm.
At the time, the doctor, he was so funny. He didn't have a sense of humor at first, but he acquired it being with me. He came in, he's like, well, we might not have to take as much as what I'm thinking. We'll find out whenever we're in there. And I'm like, okay. So the very next morning I wake up and I'm like, I see this giant, it looks just like I've got a boot on kind of thing. And I'm like, wiggling my toes. And I'm like, this isn't so bad. And I came in and he walks in. He's like, so we had to take more than what we thought. And I'm like, well, what have I been wiggling this morning? He was like, nothing but air. And I was like, gotcha. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I ended up with the baby nub and yeah.
Oh My gosh.
Mm-hmm.
But we talk about phantom pain and phantom feeling, but you still felt like you could wiggle your toes.
That was it. I felt like I could wiggle my toes.
Mm-hmm.
And phantom pain, and I don't know if it's because like that was the most trauma that I had.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a very supportive family, which are a little sick and twisted like I am, and have a great sense of humor and a wonderful backbone. But it didn't feel as traumatic as what I guess it could have been.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, other than wiggle in air, yeah.
Well, and to be told, like, we're not sure you're going to make it out. And then they're like, you still have your daughter, just missing some toes. Then maybe it's not like, it's like, okay, cool. Well, she made it through. We'll get through this.
Absolutely. Yeah. My brother, the first day, walked in my hospital room and said, your job called, they fired you. And I said, really? And I'm thinking, violation. This is a problem. He goes, yeah, IHOP called. They wanted you. And I was like,
Wow.
yeah. I mean, that's how we roll.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The nurse got a little offended. She was like, that is not acceptable. I'm like, no, that was funny.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I need right now. Yes. So.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So then you went back to life and you learned to walk?
I did. I learned to walk. But they're like, oh, you've got this great, like the show parts amputation. I'm like, well, you can slap a French name on it, but I look like the end of a turkey drumstick with my little nub down here. And I was able to move around as long as I didn't have to, I walked out of a shoe a couple times. That was fun. Converse high tops were my favorite because it gave me that brace. I didn't want to look like a freak because, we're talking about the different kind of prosthetic things that I can have.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wanted just a foot filler. There was a guy that I knew that had married a lady in my town, and he came in and showed me same thing. He got mangled up by a train, and he had a filler that went right into his shoe. And I'm like, I can't tell the way he walks. It's amazing. He's just, just like every Joe Schmo. But I get mine and I feel like Frankenstein walking, and I spent most of my life looking down because afraid of potholes, afraid of cracks in the pavement, afraid of stumbling and falling. I mean, I was crossing the street in Charleston and got tripped up in a pothole, looked like I got shot out of just, and people started screaming in the street, and I looked at my nephew and I said, I lost my foot, didn't I? He goes, yeah, it's about a lane back. I'm like, grab my foot. We got to go, baby, because people are freaking. I'm dropping body parts in the street. We got to go.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So I told everyone, he pushed me out into traffic. It was great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So for people that don't know, you are below the knee amputee. So there's more.
Yes.
There's more.
But wait, there's more. I'm like an infomercial, but better. Yeah. This is the sham wow. No. So I had that and dealt with that for about 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the last 2 years, the tissue started breaking down. And I spent 2 years on a knee scooter and 2 years in the wound clinic and 2 years going through hyperbaric therapy and going through wound vacs and different treatments. And finally, after 2 years, I went to Europe and I had a great time, but I could have had so much better. Excuse me. And I looked at my podiatrist at that time and I said, I want it gone. I said, I want an amputation. I said, some people can elect to have implants, whatever they want. I said, I'm electing to have it removed because I don't want, this is not a life worth living. It's not. I said, I can't be coming and scheduling my time between work and wound clear and wound and hyperbaric and wound care and this. And then let's do another surgery where you can pull out the tissue. And no. So I elected to have, and it was right there pre-COVID where I had them chop it off. Yes. But I elected. And I think that's also why I don't have the phantom pains. It was an election for me. I'm like, I want to have some quality of life, and this is not it. Even before I ended up on the knee scooter, I was still spending my time looking down and trying to play it safe. Whereas now I can look up and I can enjoy the world and I can see what's going on. And I've got, better quality.
So let's talk about when a surgeon, when they do an amputation, that it's different when it's something they've planned
Mm-hmm.
and they know that they want to fit you with a prosthetic.
Yes.
So go ahead.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to me, I don't know what anyone else goes through. It was just, he sent me the referral. I went to the pulmonary surgeon. He was amazing. And met with him, talked with him, told him my situation. He evaluated me and said, okay, I think this is something that we can do. And got me on the books. And then wham, bam. Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I know that, well, I mean, and in situations and people who are listening to this, if it was, an accident or, something that
Right.
a surgeon that maybe isn't prepared or knows what to expect, that, it's like they're doing it to save your life. They're not doing it for precision. It's like, oh, let's just do this. And
Right.
then the prosthetist spends their time trying to just fit it,
No.
so.
No, prosthetist came in while I was in the hospital
Okay,
in recovery.
good.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And that's where I was first introduced with them. And then came while I was in rehab.
Mm.
So, and I was there not very long. That was kind of crazy. I think it was only because I was admitted on a Thursday that I stayed until Monday, because they're like, what are you doing here?
Mhm.
It's amputation is, you would think that it would be more, not, I'm not,
Mhm.
they don't know what to do with us a lot.
Okay,
Whenever it comes to rehab and physical therapy. And that's why I'm so excited that things are advancing and progressing. They just don't know what to do.
Mhm.
Or they know what to do like a textbook to a certain extent, but let's look at this person and their age and their level of adaptivity and their level of activity and just
Mhm. I heard a PT recently say that they're not taught how to use anything but a human body. So that means prosthetic, cane, walker, anything that you're using to help you. They
but I'm
have to.
still a human body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even though, I
Yeah.
might have adaptive equipment, but I'm still 95% of me is still the human body.
Mm-hmm. And
So,
and if you get, I mean, that's where we want to move forward with the amputee center, that we have PTs that have say, oh, I've seen this before. We can work with this.
yes, or know how to look outside the box. Because we're all about learning how to adapt. That is from the get-go. The minute you wake up from surgery, you have to learn how to adapt to a new way of being. And you got to think outside the box a little bit. Oh, my mom thought she could slide me across the carpeted floor with those lovely, they're like, put them underneath furniture.
Furniture
Little
movers?
disc. Yeah.
Mom.
She put it on it was on the potty chair. Yeah, had it on the bottom of the potty chair and then started, well, the one side went and the other. And I'm like, oh, no, no. I'm like, we need to stop what we're doing right now because this is an epic fail. Now.
Well, I think that's important to talk about.
Yes.
Adaptive is adaptive, and sometimes it doesn't always work.
Sometimes it doesn't always work, but like whenever I had the foot filler, I kind of made my own one time and it did better than what the initial prosthetist and I had to travel 2 hours for this lovely. First of all, they put me in a boot that looked like I was ready to compete with Nancy Kerrigan and Tanya Harding, just without a skate on the bottom of it. That was lovely. And I kept thinking about, there was an episode of Little House on the Prairie where Paul made that girl special shoes, and that's what this thing looks like.
I know that episode. Wow.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I still wanted people to see me and think that I was whole.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want them to see the boot outside of. And you know what? And like, even whenever I first got my leg amputated, they would be like, we can do some really cool designs on this, that, and the other. I go, no, I'm going to go with flesh tone. It's fine. And I thought after 2 years, I'm like, you're an idiot. Do you think people don't see that metal and see the flesh tone and go, oh, there's nothing to see here? Look, oh, no. I'm like, embrace it, enjoy it, have some fun, have some flair. Yes.
Well, that's interesting because, I mean, prosthetics, historically, they were always trying to make something look as much like a human leg as possible, or arm. And now, I mean, it's okay. Like people are like, yeah, let me show you.
My
It's
favorite are little kids because I'll be out and all of a sudden they'll be like, I hear, she's a robot.
yeah.
And then like, and the parents start freaking out like, oh, and I turn around and I jump and I'm like, yes, I am. And it is so cool.
So so tell me about the kid in the elevator that you told them that I'm remembering when I first started at the center hearing about you telling a kid this story.
Okay, so I'm going to blame this all on my niece first and foremost because, telling people you started losing bits and pieces because you're diabetic. She goes, that's really boring, Aunt Dorie, and you need to do better. So, okay, so segue. 8 years later, she and I are at the beach with my parents, and she had to go to the bathroom. We had just done our shopping. We're getting ready to head up to the room. Mom's trying to lead her friends in on the phone. They have no sense of direction. It's a whole big cluster. And I hear these kids screaming in the parking garage, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, Callie, just load up what you can like a pack beast. Let's get it going and leave the water for your mama and papa. They can handle it. We'll go. And I'll get you to your bathroom of cleanliness. So here we go. Well, here comes said kids and their dad and their mom. And mom gets in the back and there's 4 little boys, like 8 to 6. And I mean, yeah. So the guy's like, do you need me to get the trunk? And I was like, no, my parents, I said, they can handle the water. I said, they're still in the car. It's okay. He's like, okay. So the little kids would get in the elevator and they're like, what happened to your leg? And I looked at the dad. I said, can I have some fun with this? Now we're at Myrtle Beach, the Redneck Riviera. And he's
Yes,
like, absolutely have fun. And I said, shark got it. And they went, and I said, yeah. I said, we were out there. We were jumping in the waves, me and my nieces and nephew, having a good time. And they were fishing off the pier and chumming the water. Next thing you know, and they were like, oh. Well, I forget mom is in the corner and she wasn't part of the, can I have fun with this? And she goes, oh my God, are you for real? And I went, no, I'm not. I said it was poor life choices. I said, but seriously, listen to your parents. Don't go out too far and don't be bait. And I was like, I get off the elevator. I was like, oh my God. Yeah.
That is great.
I know. Yeah.
That is great. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I blame my niece for that. It's all her fault.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but you didn't learn your lesson because you did tell Lily the story just this summer. You did.
Well,
you did.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it all started back whenever I lost half a foot because after I finally got all healed up, I had lived in Charlotte for years. I have a lot of friends down there. I loved it. And they're like, come, we'll celebrate. We'll have a good weekend. We'll go out. There's like an 80s bar. And I was like, yeah. And here I am with my boot and my cane. I'm like, I am ready to hit the dance floor. But I did. And so there's some stranger comes up and she like starts like, and she's like extremely drunk. And she's like, rubbing my leg and going, come to a shop with me. And I was like, oh, honey, my stuff's all jacked up. I'm tired. She's like, what happened? I went, and dark bite. And she went, what? And my friends all whipped around like, what? And I was like, yeah. So, and I did the whole like fishing off the pier and chumming the water. That girl went and bought me a shot and came back and cried and said, I will live my life for you. Cheers. And then off she went. And I called my boyfriend up that evening. I said, I'm going to hell. I'm going straight to hell. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. I'm like, I have a girl who's going to dedicate her life for me and left in tears. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's a good one.
It's all Callie's fault. Yeah.
One. Okay. So after... Where did you have your amputation done?
My Marietta Memorial.
Oh, it was here. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes. All my surgeries have been done.
You've been local.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what was it like now, right? You got your wish.
Mm-hmm.
They went ahead and took it off. Rehab sent you home.
Yes.
So now.
Well, and at the time, all I had was my family and my friends.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. I knew no other amputee.
Mm-hmm.
I knew, well, it was really funny. I was living on Front Street in Marietta and I was renting a house for a friend of mine and there was a pile of bricks out back. And one day I'm working and I hear a knock on the door and I was like, I open up the door and there's a man he's missing his arm. He's got this prosthetic. It's like this hook kind of thing. And he's like, I was wondering about the bricks in the backyard. And I was like, this is the first time I'm running into an amputee. And I was like, what is this? I was like, because even like whenever I would go to the prosthetist, there was no one there waiting.
Uh-huh.
I had not seen another amputee other than like out in passing maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But So it was kind of odd and kind of weird, but I had never had an interaction with that until I got involved at the amputee center.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized there's other people like me, other
Mm-hmm.
people who are also facing challenges, or maybe they've got a challenge that I feel like I've conquered myself, and I can say this might not work for you, but this is what I do.
Mm-hmm.
That was game changing. It was. I mean, my family is amazing. They are supportive. They are 100%, and friends are amazing and incredible. But no one knows.
Well, this is what I've said, and I say it over and over again in my time, my almost 3 years working with amputees, is that the only thing I can relate it to is that I have children that I had naturally. In my last pregnancy, I had to have an emergency C-section, and um, absolutely the worst experience of my life and the worst recovery ever. And I just gained that perspective of before, when I was just talking to, other moms, or you're talking about your birth stories and things, I didn't get it. I
No.
didn't get it. And then when someone would come at me and, ask me questions or say something like in my recovery time, people would say, "Oh, don't push yourself too hard." I'm like, I'm not. This is awful. This
Mm-hmm.
is the worst thing ever.
No.
This is awful. So the only thing I could relate to it is that understanding that I had no concept. And I mean, people could come and help with the baby, and they could tell me that, can we make you some food? But my internal struggle and what I had to get past couldn't be done by anybody else but me.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody understood me, and except for the couple of women that stopped by that had a C-section story. Right. But even 3 years later, I would say that was really the worst experience of my life ever.
There was just so much that I would keep bottled in because I felt like a burden, and at the time I was only missing a few toes and half a foot. I mean, it really wasn't, but I felt like, oh my God, life is over. I am a burden on my family. I am nothing but they have to devote all this time to changing my wound, to making sure I get to appointments, to do this, that I couldn't do and I was so independent.
Mm-hmm.
And it drove me crazy to the point that, and I kept so much bottled in. The first time I saw Frozen, it was after my first surgery, and I'm sitting there, and my niece is like in her whole element, and she's so excited. I mean, she was what? Allie was 9, 10 at the time, and she was like, "We're going to watch a movie, and it's so great." And I was like, "Okay." And here it comes, and then Elsa and Anna's family die, and all she does is she sings, "Do you want to build a snowman?" I lost it. I had a full breakdown, like sobbing uncontrollably, couldn't breathe. And to the point that my niece says, "It's okay, they'll build a snowman. It's okay." She didn't get it, that it was just, I had hit my breaking point. And that little Disney moment threw me into a tailspin, and I was almost violently ill because it just broke. And all of that frustration and that anger that was inside of me just snapped. Thank you, Disney. And yeah.
So did you go to therapy after that?
No.
No. But you're funny.
I know. I mean, humor is my coping mechanism. Yes. No, I finally realized, I'm like, you know what? And this is something I gone it. I
made her cry.
I know. She made me cry last night. She made me cry today. This is it. I'm not hanging out with you anymore. We all, whether you're an amputee or not, but we have our bad days, and everyone's going to have them. You just can't live there. Don't have your mail forwarded. Don't unpack your suitcase. It's okay to pop in for a minute, but get the hell out. And you have to realize, and that was one of the biggest gifts about the amputee center whenever I walked in, and I met other people, or people who were not like me, but I could still, we got each other. We understood where we were coming from and where the frustrations, and why sometimes it's good just to sit back and just laugh or talk, and that's one of the best things. And I miss my Thursdays. I really miss my Thursdays with my people. Yes. But
so you don't.
Oh
yeah,
sorry.
make sure
okay,
yeah. We want all of your voice, even if you're crying.
Even if I'm crying. Yeah. Yes.
So along your health journey, though, so if that was in 2000, I know you had another scare with infection last summer. So is it that your body's
Yeah.
susceptible to infection?
Well, yeah, and mom even asked the doctor if like we could, and it's all right side issues.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, my eye that I had ended up with a parasite in my eye,
Mm-hmm.
right side. Ended up missing half my foot and now half my leg, right side.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up with an infection in my bum, right
Mm-hmm.
side. Left side is great. Apparently, it got the memo about the extended car warranty,
Mm.
and it signed up. The right side did not. Yeah,
Maybe, I mean, have you looked into past life regression?
I know. Like, I don't want to know what I did to cause this right side issue.
I mean, at the Amputee Center, we are open to all possibilities. I'm just
Absolutely,
saying.
we do. We seriously look outside all
Mm.
boxes. Yes,
Wow.
yes, I know.
So one of the things that was really cool when I came onto the center's staff, which is a staff of one, me, and now Stacia, is that it was already established. So in my career, I am a Reiki master, so I do energy work. But this to me, I see separate as I was stepping into, the role of an executive director of a nonprofit. On staff was already a Reiki practitioner, and I
Mhm.
loved that the board of directors had already, been open to,
Yes.
any alternative options of healing. So, talk a little bit about Amy and your experience of Reiki sessions.
I had never heard of Reiki before until I had gone to my first mixer and they were talking about it. And I was like, well, what is this, like a deep tissue massage, or what? She's like, no, I don't touch you. And I was like, you don't touch me. But yet you're going to do therapy. She's like, yes, it's energy healing. I was like, I'll try anything once, twice
Mhm.
if I really like it.
Mhm.
Heck, I haven't been for a while because of my scheduling right now, but it's absolutely amazing. I told her, I said, you are my spiritual chiropractor.
Mhm.
And the difference that I felt just in regular daily engaging in my mindset and having a clear, open focus and being able to put into practice whenever I feel overwhelmed or if I feel stressed or if I feel just out of sorts, I'm like, okay, let's do a little cycling here and let's go through and let's release some energy out. And people can say what they want, but I am a firm believer.
Mhm. I love that, and I know that in several of the magazines that are for amputees, there's been some articles about Reiki being able to help with um, phantom pains and being able to somebody saying the bottom of my foot itches and that so whatever it does, changing the energy body, changing even just your nervous system
Mm-hmm.
and letting it relax. And my experience and the way that I describe it to people is that how often do you get told in life that you can just go lay down in the most relaxed position with nice music and a nice smell and not have to do anything for the next 60
Nothing.
to 90 minutes. And you can talk about yourself, but you don't have to do anything. And so to be held in a space where someone wants to help you right there is huge for amputees.
Absolutely.
And then allowing yourself to be open to some type of energy healing is, I commend you for that, to letting her into your space. And I think that that's something that I know she's willing to do more in the future. So I thought I'd get your take on
It is.
Reiki and how it's helped you in your life. I know, I mean, I feel that way about yoga and energy work. I'm just nicer. So why wouldn't y'all want me to be nicer?
Exactly. Exactly. And and yoga's great too. I absolutely love it. And it's just, yeah.
Yeah, at the Amputee Coalition, we went to the amputee yoga class. We went every morning.
Every morning
Yes,
we
we had
did.
we had no excuse.
I didn't
But
want any excuse. I loved it. It
yeah,
was great.
yeah, and the making the adaptations, and then saying, like allowing you to take off your leg or put your leg back on. And then now, Tiffany's above the knee on both sides, and she's talked about, being able to do more and doing it with those adaptations.
Yeah.
So I think that that's really important to like recognize, like what are the benefits of it, but also how do we make all of it accessible,
Absolutely.
no matter what.
And where there's a will, there's a way, and we can do
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I saw the girl with no arms. She was totally
Right.
rocking it in yoga. It was incredible.
Yes, she did.
That was a game changer.
So I want to talk about work, because I know that you squeezed me in today, but you do have to get back to work.
I do.
And so what was your career before your amputation, and how has it changed since your amputation?
It is the same. Here's the amazing part. So, I am a executive corporate travel specialist. Do not ask me about vacations to Disney. I know nothing. But if you want to go to Dubai, I know the best routing and the best fare for you. Yes, yes. Yeah, and I don't do anything on the leisure side, but it's something I've done for the past 20 some years.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely love it. And it was really funny because whenever I had my first amputation, and I was only missing half a foot. I mean, I could still get up and walk. Yeah, I mean, I might have looked like a peg leg pirate without the prosthetic, but they were like, "You're going to sign up for disability, right?" And I was like, "Why? Why would I'm like, do I need to? Is that something like, is this part of the card carrying membership now that I'm missing parts?" And a lot of people push that for me, and I'm like, "No, I don't need that. And no, no, that's there for a reason. But I'm not here. I want to be able to work. I want to be able to function. I want to be independent. And in order to do that, I still have to keep going."
Mm-hmm. So, and it sounds like, I mean, you have a work family too. I mean, you have people that, you would have lost all of that. And,
Absolutely.
I think a big thing of mental health, getting through something like this is still having that sense of identity. And I think as uniquely to you that you do have a great voice, and I'm sure you're very good on the phone and nobody knows, right? You're just like, I will tell you how to get to your flight. And they don't have to know that, you've gone through all of this. It doesn't change the way that you can perform your job.
No.
And that's something that not everybody has. And I think that a lot of what I have seen is a lot of depression, a lot of the mental health issues come when people lose their identity.
Yes.
Tiffany was a hairdresser, so it's like, okay, well, I can't stand all day and do people's hair, right? And so that many surgeries and that much recovery. So I just think that I wanted to really put a spotlight on that as a big question I see for amputees. What happens next in my career and my identity? So I love that you already were in a career that didn't need you to be standing all the time.
No.
And you still get to rock it. So.
I'm still sitting in a chair, same as always. I mean, I had to be off FMLA for whenever I had my surgeries, but they were great. They worked with it. Everything was fine. And then right back into it I went, like I never got off that bike. No.
Cool.
Yes.
So you mentioned your parents,
Mm-hmm.
and I've met your mom. I think I've met your dad, but I know I've met your mom. So obviously that changes their life. And I know I have adult children, and it doesn't ever end. You still parent, you still mother.
Yes.
And I know that they have been instrumental and supportive in every part of this for you.
Yeah.
And it feels like you already had that before.
I did. But I tell you what, I truly would not be to where I am now if it weren't for the backbone of my family.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, whenever I went for the first 6 years, I didn't know there was a group out there that, even though they met in the back of Shoney's in the dining area, they were still getting together. I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
No.
So a support group for amputees just wasn't even in your realm.
It wasn't even in the perspective. It wasn't even on my periphery. I had no idea that it was out there. So my family, and they really have been. They've been my true backbone. In fact, it was kind of funny. My mom one day, she goes, I'm a little upset. And I said, why? She goes, you get around a lot better than I even do. She goes, well, what am I supposed to do? And I was like, oh, you're a sweet lady. I said, but no. I'm like, I'm not going to throw off my leg just so you can take care of me for a little bit longer. No,
Thanks,
no.
Mom. So, you've mentioned during the surgeries and during your recoveries, you've mentioned a significant other.
Mm-hmm.
And so just a little bit about what life is like somebody supporting you through the surgeries and what it's like to be in relationship, and if the amputation changed anything for your relationships.
Well, I haven't been in a relationship, so probably about 6, 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but kind of realized how unsupportive
Mm-hmm.
that current relationship was. But it also opened up my eyes to you don't need to be in a relationship to have a successful life.
Mm-hmm.
You don't. And I'm a little bit more choosy about who I bring to my table and who sits at my table and who stays at my table.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You told me I could ask anything.
I know.
So.
Yes, and I will not hold back anything. No, 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 no. No.
So, and that is a theme this year at the Amputee Coalition. I was in the um, support roundtable. So people who were husbands, wives, boyfriends, girlfriends, um, caregivers of anybody with amputation. And each one of those roundtables that happened and each mix of people was just like mind blowing of each, so from super supportive to finding their safe space to actually be angry,
Yes.
that they had to take care of somebody that they weren't expecting to. And
Absolutely.
so, honoring all of that, and there's no judgment, honoring each person's experience. And you do see that in amputee support groups that, people question, what is it going to be like to date?
No, it's okay. Because we go through those same things. We go through anger. We go through and being pissed off because you can get up and you can walk to the bathroom in the middle of the night and it's not a process.
Mm-hmm.
I turned 50 this year. I had my colonoscopy. Do you want to know how much fun that was?
No.
I mean, okay, I'm just saying, you talk to a two-legged person who's complaining about, I had to get up 4 times in the middle of the night. I'm like, I had to sleep with my leg on. At the end of the day, it's almost like taking off your bra, taking off your leg. It's that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
No, there was none of that because no. And I'm like, sleeping with the leg on tonight because why? Yeah. No, it's again adaptive and we got to overcome challenges.
I've thought that there was some moms. I know one of the amputees we've talked to went through her whole pregnancy and was already an amputee. And then, I just think every time that I jump up in the middle of the night and every time that I'm carrying a sleeping, heavy toddler, I just am like in awe of, wow, how do you do this?
Yeah.
How do you do this? And yeah, because I mean, I'm out of the room before I realize I'm awake when I hear the baby cry, right? So you just go, all of those challenges that, of course, then I just honor, like, whatever you have gone through, I cannot even fathom, a million gold stars for going through that. But the idea that, that awareness of what life is like when you are living with somebody with an amputation, and some people, that we have at the center met their person after. So, they enter a life and a relationship knowing it.
It was kind of funny because there was a new girl at the amputee center who came in and she looked at me and I had seen her a couple weeks or whatever. And she's like, she goes, you are so well adjusted and you get along so well. I know that you have to have a good man behind you.
Wow.
And, yeah. And I looked at her and I smiled and I kind of wanted to laugh a bit. And I said, honey, I said, all I need, I said, I've got an amazing family. I said, I have friends who have my back and I have a damn fine vibrator. And that's all I need. I need no man. And I said, and a man is not dependent upon my success. And
I did say you could say anything. And
she did say I could say anything. And I told her I have no filter, but I have been really clean with my language. I'm just saying, aren't you proud? Again,
good girl.
1 million gold stars for that too.
I was ready to have a button to like. So I mean, feminist, and kudos to you that you can do that. And
that was just me. And I said, everyone, their support system is different.
Yes.
But don't assume that because someone is where they are is because that you know the key to their success, just talk to us. We'll all tell you exactly how we're doing. And if we're having a bad day, we'll tell you what's going on with that too. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But that's how we succeed. We grow with each other.
Well, I'm glad that you found that clarity for yourself, and I think you're doing all right. So,
Thank you.
So I wanted to mention a little bit, because you've mentioned the prosthetic office that you were in, and I wanted to talk a little bit about Miller's Prosthetics, and that's who you go to now.
Yes.
And your experiences there, and your current leg, and all of that.
It's great. I feel like I'm heard.
Mm-hmm.
And they told me whenever I was in rehab that the better I did in rehab, the better ankle that I can get from my insurance. I was like, well, hell yeah, it's on. And I was like, all right. And so they're like, all right, so once up and down the hall. I'm like, no, we're going to do twice. And they're like, you don't have, I'm like, no, I'm going to. And they're like, well, do you think you can go up these stairs? I'm like, you got handrails? Yeah. And I'm like, hoo, 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 hoo. And so they're like, oh, you qualify for this. And I was like, I have no idea what that means, but if I can move, it's even better.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had this hydraulic ankle, and it was pretty amazing, and it was great, and it got me up, and I could look at the world instead of looking at the ground and seeing the world through the cracks in the sidewalk.
Nice.
And yeah, it was a game changer. It was. And in fact, I'm like, never, ever go for the half foot. Always go for the leg amputation. They're like, wait, maybe not everybody. I was like, okay, not everybody, but this was for me. And I'm like, yeah, skip the middleman. Go for it and keep living the life. Yeah. But it was incredible. And then Curtis came in, and he had this crazy, I call it his watch foot, because it's clear and you can see all the processing.
Mm-hmm.
But he had a microprocessor Bluetooth ankle, and I was like, what? What is this? He was like, I can do stairs. I can do this without hesitation. I can do this. I can do that. And I was like, I want that ankle. And I went to Mark, and I was like, I want Curtis's ankle. I want his foot. And he was like, okay. So we worked with insurance, and I explained, I live on a farm, and although we only have a needy heifer of a dog, it doesn't matter. I still have a lot of uneven terrain. I've got gravel. I've got hills. I've got this. And so insurance said, okay. And it's still not cheap, but okay, here we go. And game changer. And especially whenever I tell people I have a Bluetooth ankle, they're like, oh, it plays music. And I'm like, no, no, it helps with my mobility. It's got the processor in it. I'm like, no, I do not have a walk-on theme. If I did, I mean, there was a few things I would choose, and that I can say, yes, I know, right? I can't answer phone calls on my foot. It's not like Get Smart, hello, no. But
Wow.
It's a game changer though. And it's really funny because I am a big fan of horrible, god-awful t-shirts that kind of make fun of my situation. Like it says it costs an arm and a leg and I negotiated. That's one of my favorites. So I had a new one, and it had Bigfoot, but he only had one foot and the other one's wearing a prosthetic, and it said 1 foot. I thought it was hilarious. That was my new summer t-shirt, and it was kind of chilly one day, so I had it on in a pair of jeans, and a friend of my mom's came up and said, that's inappropriate. And I went, huh? Everybody who knows me knows I'm walking around with 1.5 legs. Yeah, I'm like, whatever. And I was like, what? She goes, it's offensive. And I went, what's offensive? I'm like, oh my gosh, did I drop the F-bomb and I didn't realize it because it's so ingrained in my vocabulary? And she was like, your shirt is offensive. And at that point in time, I pulled up my pants, my jeans legs, and you could see my prosthetic. I'm like, tell me how it's offensive again. And I was like, oh, heifer, stay in your lane. But I didn't say that. I'm like, everything is a coachable moment. And I was like, really? She goes, well, you move so well. I had no idea. And I said, well, thank you. I said, I worked really hard to get to this point. And Mom pops up. She goes, yeah, she moves a lot better than I do. And I was like, hey. And I'm like, yeah.
That's when you're like, go, and again, 1 foot.
I know. 1 foot. 1 foot. And I'm still rocking it. Yes.
Wow. Yeah. So I think that, Curtis was just in there the other day. I mean, he just moves so well. He just it's so amazing when you see somebody with a prosthetic and they're just moving and grooving.
Team Kenkel all the way.
And the Team Kenkel. Do you have a shirt for that?
I do not have a shirt. I need to talk to Carrie about
that.
Okay, here's the deal, y'all. So our hydraulic ankle is nothing but it's a metal rod that connects to the foot, and it's all based on hydraulics there. Well, the the Bluetooth microprocessor, it takes a little bit more room than that. And all of a sudden, I came with a foot that actually had a real ankle. But after having that metal pole for so long, I looked down and I went, oh, I have a cankle. And my prosthetist had no idea what a cankle was. Yeah. I mean, I have brought education on different levels.
You
Yeah.
really
But
have.
now there's another female. Carl has 2 cankles.
Mm.
He's bilateral. Terry had to because he works the car wash and it's not water resistant at all. So that didn't work for him. But we have Team Cankle. Yeah, we need shirts. Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
Let me make a note. So let's talk about the Amputee Center.
Yes.
When did you find the Amputee Center?
I found the Amputee Center after I had my leg amputated and started coming in for fittings. And they told me about this new place that they were just starting over in the new offices because they were relocating. They were getting ready to have everything opened up. And I said, guess I'll give it a shot. What? I'm like, what? There's probably 5 of us, maybe. Yay. Mm-hmm. Holy cow. Like I walked in, there was 20 people and I see Steve Lamb and I looked at him at the end of the mixer and I said, my goal is to move as well as you do.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, he's a mountain goat, so
he is like the Billy Goat Gruff. He went through Red Rock Canyon. I lived in Vegas for like 3 years and I know exactly what he's talking about. Like they got there and he just took off. Woo! Up the mountain, up the hillside. It doesn't matter. And I was like, I want to move as well as you do.
Mm-hmm.
And he brought that to my attention the other time, whenever we had gone to People's Bank Theater for one of our outings. And he was like, I remember the first time I met you, you said, I want to move as well as you do. He goes, I think you're doing better.
Oh,
like, I don't know
awesome.
about that, but yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So on Thursdays, we have from 1 to 4 where anyone can come in, and Steve actually helps spearhead that and organize having peer support so that if an amputee stops by that hasn't met anyone yet, they are at least welcomed by one and then brought in to talk and ask any questions that they might have. And then we also, so you've had the peer support specialist training through the Amputee Coalition.
Yes.
And so I have, of course, we know that you're very, very instrumental in Marley's journey, both of you being below the knee and relatable. But what the story that we have been focusing on this week is Sonia.
She's going to grab me crying.
You want to grab a tissue?
I'm going to grab, yes, one of the high tissues here, yes.
So now that we're looking back, and I mean, I answer the phone all the time, and apparently last January someone called and told me the story of a woman who was had elected to have an amputation because of lots of failed bone fusions and health issues. And the sister and the husband were looking for support. And in that moment, one, of course, I can say all the nice things, and I have training and in trauma informed, and I love to talk to people, but I also like to pair up here. And so it was like, oh, okay, below the knee, female, Dorie's wonderful, and I just let go, let God, right? I just put it out to the universe. And I did not even make that whole connection until this week of how it all happened, because that was January, and then our February mixer, she came down and you said, hey, we're meeting a new person that's come to visit.
Yeah.
And then she also came to the acrobatics and yoga play shop that I did. We had some fun when she
had a ball.
Just got her leg. And then now Mark Theobald has started the free music lessons. So Mark is above the knee, amputee on the right side, I think. And he is a wonderful musician and has volunteered to come in twice a month. And so we have this really cool feature that she gets to come down from Columbus, and you guys get to, explore. Truly, it's music therapy, and you
Absolutely.
get to explore. But so just tell me a little bit about when you first reached out to her and what that connection has felt like for you.
I always feel weird at first because I'm like, oh, this person's going to think I'm a spammer, that, hi, do you remember that time that we would, so Her sister Christy is who I first contacted, and I was like, "Hi, my name's Dorie. I'm with the Amputee Center, and I'm an amputee. And I had heard that you were looking for someone to reach out and talk with your sister." And she kind of gave me a little bit, and she's like, "Okay, so I'm going to give your information to Sonia." And I was like, "Yeah." I said, "Let her have, and if she wants to contact me, absolutely, I'm here." I said, 24/7. I said, "Shoot, I work from home." I said, "It might take me a hot minute, but I will go back." I said, unless I'm sleeping. Everyone knows once I'm sleeping, I medicate myself. I'm done. Like 9 hours later, you might hear back from me. So yes. But she did. She reached out to me before she went to surgery. She was nervous. She had some questions, and I answered them as best as I can. And I'm always very clear up front. Not everyone is textbook. Not everybody is the same. But this is what I went through, and this is what I didn't know what to expect. But here, and she came forth and she said it was really it was very reassuring for her, and we've developed a friendship, and yeah.
Well, and as you said, even with your family for 6 years, you had a great support group and family, but
Nobody
no
knows.
amputee.
Mm-mm.
And so that power, right, to be able to reach out and help someone before and talk through and be there. I know Kevin came before, and the day of his surgery, Steve went to the hospital, to talk to him. So,
Okay.
so those are the stories and the examples of the impact of coming together as a community, providing these services, and then someone as far as 2 hours away, is still able to keep that connection because of technology. She's able to
Absolutely. And, I mean,
text and
you're still going to be nervous. You're still going to be scared. Like for any surgery going in, there's a bit of nervousness. But knowing that someone is there for you who can relate and understand, it takes a bit of a weight off, and you're not going into the unknown, and not facing it alone. Because no one wants to go through anything by themselves. No.
Again, my relatable is that a lot of stuff happened after my C-section that I was like, why didn't I know this was going to happen? Like,
Yes.
why hadn't anybody warned me? Just the way that my body didn't want to heal as fast as I wanted it to, things like that, where, and of course, then, I was able to reach out to some people or Google it or whatever, go to support groups. But it is, there's so many things that we think we know. I mean, we're adults, we've lived life. But that moment when you go, I need a soft place to fall. I need someone to understand me in this moment, or just be able to vent or have a moment that I'm just mad or irritated or annoyed, or, maybe just watch a Disney movie and bawl your eyes out.
And bawl your eyes out. I know, because, I mean, and people try. And, I mean, empathy goes a long way. It really does. But it can also foster like a sense of almost anger. Don't try to tell me how I'm feeling. You don't know what I'm going through. But then again, you're in your background going, wait a minute, this is the person who is helping me right now. I cannot say what I want to. So you bottle a lot of this stuff up. And sometimes you just need someone to vent to, and someone who gets it.
Well, I'm so glad that they called the center and
I am
that
too.
she found you and us. And
I told her, I said, now you're stuck with me for life.
I started a group text with her and I and you. So
I know.
There's
in
the dark side. There's no turning back.
We got cookies. We're good.
Once you get to the group text level with Kat,
And that's it. It's all over.
Yeah. So the other part of peer support, and you've helped so many people, but we have to talk about Marley.
My salty, sweet little Sour Patch Kid, yes.
So Marley would have been 12 or 13 when you met her.
She was
11.
13. No, she was 13, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so she is also a below the knee amputee.
She's below the knee. Yeah, she's left, and I'm right. Yeah.
Oh, cool. You guys make a good pair.
We're also on a three-legged race. I'm just saying.
So Amputee Coalition, we just traveled together there.
Yes.
And, I think that, being able to take her and having these experiences, although she's flown alone already, she's really
went to kids camp in Texas all by herself. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you being able to relate, not really in amputation experience, but just in the leg loss, What has your journey with Marley been like? And full disclosure, you don't have children of your own.
I don't. No.
So you
no.
can
That
be
was something I elected at 17. I asked for a hysterectomy because I was babysitting since I was 13 and decided, no, want no part. But I have kids who are mine. I might not have birthed them, but they are mine. And she's kind of fallen into that group. But, the very
kind
first,
of.
I mean, I don't want to assume, but let's see here. So, like the very first time I met her, it was just we threw on a set of bungees and acted like a bunch of idiots. And someone else came up later and said, "Well, what's her story? How did she lose her leg?" And I said, "I didn't ask." They're like, "What do you mean you didn't ask?" And I said, "We're more than the loss of our limbs."
Thank you.
I said, we are people. And I said, and I want to know this adorable, funny, quirky dork of a girl who I instantly just bonded with. It was like you have been a part of my life from the very beginning. And in fact, the second time whenever she came, because she's got a great support family, the first time was with her mom and her sister. And second time her great grandma came in and she walked up to me and said, "How old are you?" And I was like, "Oh, she's going to be mad at me because I'm a 48-year-old woman out here playing with her 14-year-old great-grandchild." And I said, "I'm 48. Why?" She goes, "Nope, you're 14, just like she is. You're much of an idiot as she is, and this is great." And I was like, "Oh, my God." I'm like, "Thank you."
You guys matched levels.
We did match levels. I knew she gets me and I get her. It's good. It's good. But later on, I did find out she lost it in a lawnmower accident. And as we were still back in bungees, we were playing, we were doing stupid line dancing and whatever. And some disco song came on. I said, it's time for me to do my move. I said, "It's the mower." And she was like, "That's not funny." And I looked at her and I said, "Look, I have had this dance move older than you are alive." And I said, "No, you cannot take it from me. I am a bad dancer. And I said, first you mow it, then you pull it and you wave to the neighbors." So segue to, we go to People's Bank Theater and they're having an open concert beforehand. And we're sitting there and we're having a good time. And I was like, I feel it coming on. She's like, "Don't do it. Don't." And I was like, I said, "I feel my mowers coming on." She was like, "Oh my God." And I get up and of course I get far enough away she can't kick or hit me. And I start doing it and she's like, "Oh my God." Another boy who's with us are like, "Are you high?" And I went, "No, this is just the way I dance. Do not judge me." And so other people came over and started doing it with me because anyone who's over we're like lawnmower. Yeah. And she was like, and I was like, no. I'm like, "You might have taken your leg, but this is my go-to. I've had it for over 30 years.
Well, and that is where the sense of humor comes in too. Like, we have to find the things you can joke about.
You do. Like, okay, I don't know if I've coined the term, but I've brought it to the table at our group, Ampuversary. We have the anniversary of our amputation. My 8-year, I got a tattoo that my niece designed me. Well, we celebrate. I mean, it's cake, people. Come on. So it was time for Marley's ampuversary last year. So I go to Walmart and I go to the bakery. Not everyone is ready for me. And I have it all written out on a Post-it note. It says, "Happy Ampuversary, Marley." And I hand it over and I said, "I need this on the cake." She goes, "You spelled anniversary wrong." I said, "No, I didn't." I said, "It's the anniversary of her amputation. Ampuversary." She went, "Oh my God." And I was like, "Look," I said, "we're still alive. We're still kicking it. Why not celebrate it with a cake? It's kind of like our new birthday here." And so she was like, "Oh, okay. And so she's writing it out and everything. And I said, once I'm done here, I got to go in the toy section and look for like a mower or a bulldozer or something. She's like, "Why does she mow lawns for life?" And I said, "No, that's how she lost her leg, got chopped up." Remember, she was like, "Jesus." And I was like, yeah. So, I'm just saying.
Oh,
They didn't have a mower. All they had was a little tyke on a tractor, but once you pop them off the tractor, it looks like they got no legs anyway, so it's perfect. Yeah,
perfect.
I know. Yeah, it's awesome.
Perfect cake top.
Put it on the cake, shoved it in the cake. Everyone loved it. It was great, and the cake was good, so yeah.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah. And I mean, it makes a much better story than your leg loss. So There you go. I don't know how to get a cake topper for you.
I know. Well, I mean, shark things. No,
there you go. There you go.
Which that was a big Halloween costume. Crystal came with the shark attached to her.
I feel like the shark story is really just going to win always.
We embrace the shark story. Yes. Yeah.
So, there's so many people that you have impacted, and I know when you come into the center, everyone's happy to see you, mostly because we just want to laugh. And your trauma makes you funny.
My coping mechanism.
Right. So in, just a few more minutes of talking about what your experience has been at the Amputee Center holistically. So we have Reiki, we have the movement. You've done aerial once or twice,
I
right?
do, and I love the stretch. My thing
Mhm.
is, whenever I get upside down, though, I lose my sense of direction, and I don't know which way is up and which way is down. So you start saying, "Well, go this way." I'm like, I don't know how to go that way now. I don't know. No. It's like I'm drowning underwater, but it feels good. And I'm just good with doing a stretch. Yes.
Yeah, and you actually, I mean, the yoga that we did, especially at the coalition, was really, it was great to see, the adaptations and just the body awareness that you already have.
You got that video though, where I'm giving up what the look on my face. I forget what she was asking us to do, but I was like,
well, I think the yoga cue was
stand on one leg,
shift your weight over to your right leg, and whatever. And of course, the yoga teacher's being kind and saying whatever is accessible to you, right? Because it was a huge group of amputees.
Yes.
But I just happened, because you had said, hey, get a couple pictures of me here. And so I'm being the mama cat executive director, and I popped back to get a picture, and it was right. And so I just turned it on video, and it's epic.
This look on my face like you're asking me what? Because you all don't understand. It's not because I'm missing a leg that I have poor balance. I have always had. I failed skipping and hopping in kindergarten, and they wanted to hold me back. My mother had to go and fight for my advancement because I'm an idiot. And I will laugh and tell people that, like, my big go-to is, don't make me pop off my leg. I will club you like a baby seal. The honest to God truth is, if I take off my leg, I'm going down like a felled tree. And that's it.
And here's the thing I like to say, right? Because we do line dancing and yoga and Tai Chi and bungee and aerial yoga and boxing and weightlifting. And, one of my favorite quotes of myself, which I didn't even plan, was saying to an amputee, you may not have been good at this before. Give yourself grace.
Absolutely.
We're going to try it. But if it doesn't feel right, it's okay. Because maybe it wouldn't have felt right anyway.
Exactly.
And so, because it's our go-to to be like, oh, well, it's not working because this. No.
Maybe it just might not have worked before.
Maybe you would have failed it in kindergarten.
I know. I was never a skipper and a hopper, and I was never a runner. And now I have the excuse that my ankle, where it's got great technology, but it doesn't have that recovery time. So sorry, you can't run. No,
never.
If there's a zombie apocalypse or a bear attacks, I'm just saying I'm
safe.
First game.
They can eat you. Yeah.
I'll find someone else to throw down before I do. Yes. And I will quickly walk myself out. I know. I will crawl. I will. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we have a good time, and I'm glad that you're able to come to the center when you
absolutely
can come to the center.
I know. But my last job allowed me to have like every Thursday off, so I was like a big factor there. It felt good. No, it really sucks that I don't get to come play.
It's a good season of change, though, and now that we have music on the weekends, and trying to get more activities happening on the weekends, because I say, as an amputee, we want to encourage you to get back into the workplace. We want to be the one cheering you on.
Yeah.
Then when we do, then we miss you.
I think we need to have movie nights and karaoke nights, because how much fun did we have at the coalition whenever I dragged you all up there? Oh yeah, I made them sing with me.
So that was fun. Love Shack came on the other night, and Carrie said, "Oh, where's Dorie?" So we can sing Love Shack again if you want.
There's so much musical repertoire that we can butcher and have a good time with.
So coming in 2025, you heard it here first. Karaoke nights at the Amputee Center.
At the Amputee Center. I'm just
Thank
saying.
you, Dorie.
Absolutely. Liquor might be encouraged. I'm just saying. Yeah.
I mean, whatever you need, just give me a doctor's excuse or something.
I'm going to need a sleeping bag in the back corner because it's an hour for me to get home. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. We can take care of that. So, when we were chatting before we came in here, you said that one of your goals in PT was to dance.
Yes. and I did it badly beforehand. So, so I'm still a bad dancer, but I have fun with it. Like, I hadn't really gotten out and danced, and we were at a friend's wedding, and my niece and my nephew were there, and they know, like, I love to get out and, like, do the Cupid shuffle and whatever, and all that stuff, and all of a sudden, it came on, and I looked at them, I went, "Ah." They said, "Come on in, Dorie, we're gonna try it." I said, "All right." And so, Dalt's on one side, Callie's on the other, and we Cupid shuffled all the way through. They're like, "You're still as bad as what you ever were before." I'm like, "And I didn't fall down." Yes, winner, winner. Yes, yes.
So I love, this is the third podcast I've recorded, and I have personal connections, and I see all of you often, but there's still so much I don't know about you, right?
Yes.
And I didn't know that. I didn't know that was one of your goals, but it also triggered the memory of the first time I walked into the amputee center.
Yeah.
Just
I
as
thought you were going to bring up the first time I ever met you.
Well, the first time I walked into the amputee center, and it is an amazing experience to come into the center because you have this, traditional weight room. You can check in at the window to see the prosthetist. There's PT, but then you open up the door and there's this hallway to this beautiful, expansive studio.
Like going to Narnia through the closet door.
It's like a speakeasy. You're like, wow, right? So I'm walking in, I'm meeting everybody. This is my new job. I'm like, whoa, what are we doing now? And this lady walks up to me and says, "Hi, nice to meet you, nice to meet you." And she leans in and she says, "We've met before." And I'm like, oh yeah? Where? You want to tell him?
I said, well, about 8 years ago, I said, you hosted an event at Swag that it was a bit of a dance thing. And all of a sudden I saw the light bulb go off and she went, "Oh my God, you were in my burlesque class." And I said, yes. Yes, I was.
I do.
Yes.
And immediately, because that was a pretty big class, but I remember she came up to me and said, "I'm going to take this class. I'm going to stand in the back row. Just know I have half a foot."
I ended up in the front row, though, because that's where my friend dragged me to. And only one who kept my clothes on. Just the Cat. She kept her clothes on.
I was the one
People
in charge.
taking the class.
They was practicing burlesque. Yeah.
They were and these ladies, and now being older, they were having hot flashes, and I get it. Whew, just whip it off. We were in a safe place, and it was good. But there were things that I learned that day. But yeah.
That is so funny. And I mean, it was very normal for me to host different types of dances there. Like that was a movement space from yoga to belly dance to hula hooping. And,
hey, I started paying attention to more classes that were offered. Yes, I did.
Yeah. And so now I've grown up and come to the amputee center.
But very few people know that I've known her longer than anyone else there.
Yeah. So we left this at the end of the podcast. So this will be the little tidbit. Little that if we go, "Did you listen to the whole podcast?"
The Easter egg, yes.
And they'll be like, "Yeah, I did." And I'll be like, "If you don't know,
pop quiz.
You didn't listen."
Pop quiz, here it comes. Yes.
So we are right at about an hour, which is where I was wanting to get it, and I feel like we've really covered everything. And
all right, well, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming here.
Yes.
And we've got a bright, wonderful future together. So I'm sure we'll have reasons to come back and tell more stories.
Absolutely. Good.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you for listening to this episode of My Missing Piece. Be sure to like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and join the conversation. Let's rewrite the narrative together.